All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. What's going on? Glad to see everybody here tonight. We've got some folks all ready to go in the green room, ready to go. Some of our guests that are going to be taking this journey with us tonight as we commemorate the life of Mr. Broderick Crawford here in Wyandotte County. Got some amazing people here whose lives he's touched and their organizations are touching our community in various ways, all because of the impact he had in them. So I'm going to open with prayer, then we're going to get going. So, Father, we thank you for this amazing opportunity, but even more, we thank you for this amazing man that you call son, who goes by the name of Broderick Crawford. And we know, we believe that his spirit is with you and he's smiling down on us right now. And he would be telling us to keep the fire lit and to keep going. And there'll never be another Broderick. But what we're hoping for and praying for is that more people, because of how he touched their lives, will be more actively engaged and have the passion that he had. And it's transferable power that we can see you glorified in this city, and we'll see our city made stronger. And so as we speak, we pray that you are in the midst and that you are pleased with everything that we think, say, and do. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, y'all, let's go. Hey, family, you already know what time it is. It's time for Pop's Corner, the remix. Let's get it. Yeah, that's just a little something we put together for my man, Broderick Crawford. And so we want to jump right into this conversation because we do have some individuals who can't stay for the entire time. But I do want to put this out there first so those who don't know. Um, the memorial service for Broderick will be tomorrow um, at New Bethel Church, where Bishop Brady will be facilitating that as well. And then here is some of the information that lets you know what's going to be going on tomorrow at New Bethel Church. Again, Bishop Brady the senior pastor, will be facilitating. As you can see, there are 3 opportunities for the live stream to happen. It's all from New Bethel, YouTube, Facebook, and the website. And then Saturday is when there will be the homegoing celebration at Victorious Life Church, 3400 Paseo, Kansas City, Missouri. Again, Bishop Brady will be officiating, and that will start right at 10 o'clock. Again, all condolences can be sent to lgjones918@gmail.com. And then again, as you can see, there are the live stream options for those who can't make it to the actual service. You can watch it on live stream. And so without further ado, I get the amazing opportunity to introduce these amazing people that we have had the opportunity to work with side by side, as far as KC United, as far as ministry with Berean Fellowship Church, as far as just coming together to see our community made strong. So, we got to make sure that we got the right atmosphere. So introducing, first of all, Miss Molly Godebert, aka the Mollinator. She's in the building. Hey, Molly, good to see you. All right. In the building, we've got Bishop A. Glenn Brady, the man, the myth, the legend. He is here. We've also got Alan Griner. Yeah, Alan, good to see you, sir. Good to see you. And then right now, we've also, last but not least, we call him Big Red. He's Matt Simon. He's here in the building, and there will be others joining us a little bit later as we go through the night. So let's give them a hand. Glad that they're here. Glad you're here. You guys look great. And I think I'm getting this stuff straight, Bishop. I can get the applause on and off, and it don't look like I missed a hitch. So we're working on it. But thank you all so much for being here tonight. And so, what I'm going to ask you to do, since this is strictly from a community perspective, and it can even get as personal as you allow it to be, um, just introduce yourself. Tell us what entity you work for, and then we'll go around and this is how we've been doing it. So this is like a little bit of KLC stuff. For those of you who don't know, Kansas Leadership Center. So I want you to be curious, right? Like, let's act like you don't have any idea who these people are. So I might say, you know what? My name is Adrian Robertson. I'm honored to lead, co-founder of KC United, of which Broderick was on our board in our early years, and I'm also assistant pastor of Berean Fellowship Church. And I'm curious as to Molly Gotobed. Who are you? Who do you represent? And we're just going to do it like that. Who are you curious about? So, Molly, I'm curious about you.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I am Molly Gotobed, and I am oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I have a baby in my lap, and my son is eating. So he's trying to get out of the chair. But I am a program director at the Community Health Council. We're a 501c3 in downtown KCK, and I had the honor of working with Broderick on a lot of different projects, as I'm sure everyone else in this room did. And I oversee our health insurance enrollment effort. So we help folks apply for Marketplace health insurance, Medicaid, and now Medicare. And then we also do a lot of healthcare navigation.
Nice. So who are you curious about in this group?
I am curious about Big Red over there.
I appreciate it, Molly. Sure, I can introduce myself. My name is Matt Kleinman. I have lived in Wyandotte County for the last 2 years in the Northeast area, but prior to that, I started working in Wyandotte County about 8 years ago, and that's how I got to meet Broderick. I was working with a group out of the KU School of Architecture, and I bounced through a couple different nonprofits and community organizations. I've worked with everybody on this call at some point or other. And then, like many of y'all, Broderick has a indelible impact upon my life, and he's had a major influence, and just miss him a lot. So excited to join y'all just in remembrance and thinking about him. But yeah, I'll pass it along. I'm curious about Bishop A.G. Brady.
Thank you, Matt, and greetings to everyone, and good evening. Thank you, Pastor Roberson, for allowing me to participate. I was Broderick's pastor, and he was the first one that really brought me into the KC area back in 2009 when I became the pastor of the New Bethel Church. He was on the screening committee, and then when I was elected, he was the first one to take me around, show me KCK, introduce me to some community leaders. So he and I have had a very good working relationship. Not only was he my parishioner, I considered him a friend. And we certainly did a lot, and he helped me fulfill the vision. So that's who I am, and I'm just grateful again to be able to share what I know about this great man, Broderick Crawford.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Who are you curious about, Bishop?
Well, I'm curious about that guy who looks like he's in bed. I don't know, but I'm talking about Dr. Griner.
Thank you, Bishop. Alan Griner here. I'm actually in a hotel room out here in Denver, Colorado, doing a little training. And unfortunately, I'm going to be having to live stream the events tomorrow that you will be officiating, Bishop, and the events on Saturday. And I'm looking forward to that very much so. But I'll introduce myself, Alan Griner. I'm a family physician and primarily work at KU Medical Center. I did all my training there, and I've been taking care of families in Wyandotte County for over 23 years now. I've also been the health officer at the Wyandotte County Health Department for 18 years now. I first met Broderick at a conference at the Kauffman Center that probably happened 13 or 14 years ago. But Broderick had a long career doing clinical laboratory work, both at KU Med and I believe also at St. Luke's. But so he had a lot of health knowledge, and So he and I hit it off immediately when we first met, and he started working with other individuals like myself that were at bigger health institutions, and really continued that, as all of you know, and it just grew and snowballed into into more and bigger and better and more impactful things. And so we, much as how Molly was saying, I think many of us were working with Broderick on multiple things over time, and that, I think that fit some of us, and it certainly fit him, because he knew that there were lots of things that needed to change to make the community healthier and make the community better. And sometimes, that doesn't mean you focus on one narrow thing. You stay broad, and I think we all saw that with Broderick and appreciated it. So I'm super happy to be here, and just want to honor him as much as we can.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Griner. So we're just going to dive right into this conversation. Monday, we got together with a group of individuals from the Kansas Leadership Center, out of Wichita, of which he was one of the initial individuals here in Wyandotte County that got Wyandotte County connected to KLC. And a lot of people here through Broderick and NBC, CDC got a lot of what we call transformation grants to go to Wichita to learn about this thing called adaptive leadership. And hundreds of people got to go. And so we had that alumni group come together Monday, and it was really, really good. And so tonight, the anticipation is, because this is local community folks, that the conversation be just as good, if not better than that was, simply because a lot of times there's more personal connection here. And so we're leaving that wide open. And so we're going to start with Bishop Brady, his pastor, who could talk to us more about Broderick from the perspective of NBC CDC, how it started. And then also, if you would mind, just talk about your personal journey with him. And then at the end, if you could talk about legacy, because I believe Bishop has to leave early. So we want to get his wisdom in the room. And so with the rest of our guests and with those that are coming, I want you to start thinking about legacy, Broderick's legacy in this community going forward. So Bishop Brady, you've got the floor, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much. Again, Broderick and I go back, like I said, to 2009. And what really was a blessing, he understood my vision. And my vision when I came pastor here, coming from a pretty large church, almost a mega church, I wanted the church to be more involved in community as opposed to just in-house. And Broderick caught my vision immediately. We started off adopting a school, but then we wanted to concentrate more on the health of the community. Wyandotte County, as most individuals know, has one of the lowest, if not the lowest, of health ratings in the entire state of all counties in Kansas. And I always saw that as a challenge, because here in Wyandotte County, we have one of the most premier medical institutions, the University of Kansas. So we started as a local church to put emphasis in the health side. And part of that was starting what we call the NBC Community Development Corporation. He was one of the initial workers. It was already in the foundation stage when I became pastor, but after I became pastor, we were able to grow and to then move into various segments of the community here in Wyandotte County. And if you know Broderick is a go-getter. He is one who's going to work hard and get the job done. And one of the qualities about Broderick, and I'm sure we all can attest to, Broderick was very humble. I mean, he did not put on any airs. Here he was presenting in national conferences where there were many individuals listening to him that had great positions. But Broderick always kept a humble position, and he would come talk to me sometimes. He would just he wouldn't even make an appointment. He'd just show up at the door and come in, and he would always say, "I am humbled and grateful for what the Lord allowed him to be involved in." He saw this work that he's doing in the community as his ministry. Unfortunately, when we talk about ministry, people always think it's about preaching or doing something in the church. But Broderick had the unique understanding that his ministry call was to do what he can to help individuals in the community. And that's the reason why he took every task on with passion and he worked it until it was completed. He's done many things, and one of the things that I hope we can continue during the COVID, we stopped having the 5K walk that he was very instrumental in doing through our NBC Community Development Corporation, and we hope to restart that next year and maybe call it in his honor, the Memorial Broderick Crawford 5K run and walk. But he was also a deacon in the church. He had great spiritual connection. And I'm just pleased to have known him. He was a blessing to me. He's a blessing to our church. And again, he touched so many lives. We will be having the community memorial service because we wanted those in the community to have the opportunity to share and to talk about what Broderick did. And I'm very happy to announce that Ed O'Malley, who was the head of the KC Leadership Foundation, he's going to be present on Friday. And even though he has a new position, he's going to be there along with a number of other individuals. So we're blessed. And then on Saturday, we're having the culmination with the homegoing service. And I'm telling you, our lives have been enriched by knowing Broderick and having him in our lives. I do hope others, when you talk about legacy, then I have to talk about who will take up the mantle for ministry to the community. He wasn't impressed with having a title, even though he did serve as the president of the NBC Community Development Corporation, served as the executive director. And as I mentioned, number of honors, but he wasn't involved in making sure you knew him, his titles, his positions, his degrees. He had a great fraternity, but I'm just hoping and praying somebody will pick up that mantle of ministry to the community. Maybe Matt will talk about later. Across the street from our church, there's a basketball court on a park. And as you know, Broderick was very instrumental in that entire area being developed, the Riverwalk. So we're hoping that we can even rename that basketball court in his honor, fix it up. But again, Matt might be able to share more to that end. But again, thank you, Pastor Robertson, for allowing me to just be a part. And if anyone wants to have any questions or feedback, I'm always here and look forward to continuing the work here in the Wyandotte County.
Thank you, Bishop. And I want to support what Bishop has said. Bishop is what I call one of those folks he just do the work. You know what I mean? There's no bluster. There's no here I am, look at me. You know, he's always in the cut, as we say, behind the scenes, pushing, to see, what we call the gospel going forward in various ways. And so NBC has been very instrumental in helping to strengthen this community. And when KC United first started, was there supporting us as well. So Bishop, we thank you for all that. In fact, our first video, Matt and Alan, we shot some of it at NBC, and that was because of Broderick and Bishop. And so when we did our first promo video. So Bishop, it's always great to hear your voice, and even the piece about legacy, that who is going to take up the mantle. And I don't know about you, Matt, or you, Dr. Granter, but man, when he left, it was like all I saw was this huge hole. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh my God, and because we don't have a lot of, and I'm just because as of right now, we just didn't have a lot of people, especially a lot of African American men, standing like Broderick, advocating for health equity I mean, like on the firing line, like, you know what I mean? Like nobody's business. And so, what I really enjoyed Monday was Julia said, and she's the interim CEO for KLC. She said, what I love about Broderick is he did not pull any punches. He told us what we was coming up short and what we needed to do to get better. And that was just Broderick, you know what I mean? And so I got a short video I want to show real quick about stuff that Broderick was doing. But I know Bishop's got to go, but I want to show this video, and then we come back, and I'm going to have Dr. Griner come in, or we'll have Molly's back, so we'll have Molly come in, and she'll talk about the entity that no, we're going to do Molly last, because that's where Broderick was at CHC. So we'll come back, we'll have Dr. Griner, and then Matt, and then we'll have Molly close that part out, then we'll go into legacy. But I wanted you all to see this video that I played, I found for Broderick, and love to get your thoughts on it.
When I was a child, you could play. There was basketball courts, there was baseball, there was football. You had all type of activities occurring, and until recently, none of that was happening. From 5th Street on the east side to... I'd love to see that trail become a destination. What would it look like for when people come to Wyandotte County, come to Kansas City, Kansas, that they would want to see the Jersey Creek Trail? Those are the types of things that we want to see. Bringing the beauty, bringing the ambiance, bringing the things that make this a vibrant community back to that area. Walk, jog, or run, exercise is free medicine. Absolutely. I also want to be the image, to be the example of what we're trying to portray in this neighborhood. I literally moved back to Wyandotte County, an area where in the zip code that I live in, have one of the highest crime areas, has no grocery stores, have very little amenities, but it was important enough for me to not just talk about the community, but to be a member of the community. My name is Broderick Crawford, and I want to see the Jersey Creek Trail thrive.
Yeah.
Wow, that was really great. Brings back some memories, because he was very instrumental in getting that started. In fact, Pastor, if you can send me that link, maybe I can show it even on Friday, since it's only a couple minutes. But that just talks about how Broderick was. Now, I don't know how many of those push-ups he did, but at least he got one.
Man, when he put that helmet on, that's what got me. Where they found a helmet to fit his head, like, because we always talked about his head. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But you're right, Bishop, man. That dude right there was just relentless when it came to, caring about this community. And so we're going to shift right now. We're going to go to Dr. Griner and tell us who you are. Hey, Kevin, good to see you. You're right, Chandra. Yeah, that way we feel that hole. You're right, And Dr. Griner, tell us who you represent and how you connected with Broderick. And I'm gonna give you about 3 minutes because I want to make sure everyone gets in the room. But then also how Broderick impacted that entity that you're a part of, please. Dr. Griner.
Yeah. Thanks, Pastor. And that was a great video. It's just so nice to hear his voice, because I think we all miss that energy and that personality, because he that enthusiasm really helped us all. And I sit at KU Med Center in my main job, but I do things at the health department too, do things with other entities out in the community. But he had a massive impact on KU Medical Center, because over the time that I was there, if I go back to the beginning time when I was on the faculty 23 years ago, nobody was really thinking about the community in terms of how do we listen to the community? How do we engage with the community so that we can hear what they're experiencing and feeling and seeing, and do better as a big institution, by that, getting that dialogue going and getting that input. And Broderick, he latched onto that and became really, I think, the premier entity at trying to facilitate this conversation between a big institution that sometimes was, in my opinion, right, too broadly focused and overlooked Wyandotte County, right? Even though the medical center sits in Wyandotte County, there were many times when I felt like we were overlooking folks right on our doorsteps. And so he ended up being the head of the community advisory board for the KU Cancer Center at the medical center. He was the co-chair of a group called the Patients and Community Partners Group that tries to inform all of the translational research that happens at KU Medical Center. And translational research is really is a term to try and talk about how we need to take the things we figure out doing biomedical research and get them to helping people as fast as possible. So he was a huge input on that, and eventually he became a co-principal investigator on a big grant that I was also involved with that linked to that translational research effort. And that grant was called the RADx Up grant. And it's the first time in my knowledge that KU Medical Center had a community individual as a equal footing co-lead of a really major effort. That grant was intended to try and address COVID disparities, not just in Wyandotte, but actually we took a model that we developed in Wyandotte as part of this health equity task force we had around COVID, and we ended up using it in 9 other counties in the state of Kansas as part of that RADx Up grant. And he was getting national attention for this kind of thing that he was doing in terms of being able to impact a big institution that often wasn't doing the right kind of listening. And Matt can talk about this more because Matt has been involved in some of the legacy work of all of that RADx Up, as well as the Health Equity Task Force. And I think there's all sorts of momentum and legacy, I think, that we're going to see from the various things Broderick did. And I'm just touching on a small portion of them. I will say, in terms of legacy, and I know I'm talking a long time here, but we are going to have a new program out of our translational research program at KU Medical Center. And I've talked to Broderick's family about this. We're going to be naming that funding activity the Broderick Crawford Community Engagement Award Program. And at least for the next 5 years, we will have $25,000 a year that we will be giving out in small grants, not just to research people at places like KU Med, but also to community individuals who may be wanting to get involved in health related research somehow. And so we hope it'll probably end up being about 5 or 10 awards a year that'll divide that pool up. But we're gonna have his name attached to that program, and our plan would be to grow it over the long term so that we can recognize all of his impact and the way he really got things changed to go in a much healthier, better direction for us at KU Med.
Man. And see, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have this conversation, is that for those intimately engaged with Broderick, like this group that's on the screen, they knew a lot of that work behind the scenes. But again, there are a lot of folks who have benefited from this type of work and other work that he has done that didn't know. Maybe they just saw him at meetings, but they didn't know behind the scenes the people that he was just connecting and making connections with. And one of the descriptors that we heard Monday was one of the gifts that he had was the capacity to connect people, with the right people in the right situation, and to hear and it's just, this is crazy. It's just a continuance of the conversation that we had Monday about just Broderick's capacity to be in the right place at the right time. And as Dr. Griner said, you know, he started getting national notoriety because of his capacity to do that. And I met Dr. Griner through Broderick. I met Matt through Broderick. I met Molly through Broderick. I met Bishop Brady through Broderick. And so, and I can't even begin to tell you how much KC United and our ministry has been blessed because of these connections. And so thank you, Dr. Griner. So we're gonna jump on here and let continue this part of the conversation with we call him Big Red. Played at KU 2008 when they got that ring, and he don't wear it no more, but he got it. He got a ring, y'all. He got a ring. But this is man, I love this dude, man. He has been grinding for the dot for years. And so come on, Matt, talk to the people about your relationship with Broderick and some of the entities you have worked through with him. Matt Kleinman.
Thank you, Pops. First, I got to say, I married a Missouri Tiger, so I wear the most important ring.
Oh man, I didn't know she was a Tiger, man. Are you serious?
But you want to hear a crazy story? Broderick hired my wife for communications for the Jersey Creek Trail before she started law school, but she was looking for a little bit of work to kind of tide her over the summer, and she had a journalism background. And so he hired her, and we had a community event at New Bethel Church. And he introduced her, and he said, it was like a week after we got married. He said, now introducing Sangeeta Kleinman. And my wife's Indian, and her last name's Shastri. And we kept it Shastri because Sangeeta Kleinman coming out of Broderick's mouth sounded like, you know, nails on a chalkboard. he couldn't quite say it. And we looked at each other like, nah, that's not going to happen again. So he's the only person who's ever called my wife Sangeeta Kleinman in public. And it was because of he tried to do it and he couldn't quite get there. And we had a lot of grace for him, but it was also like, yeah, you should keep your last name. It sounds a lot better than Sangeeta Kleinman. But yeah, Broderick, I mean, that video, I put that out after he passed, the day after I learned. I shared that video. It was done for the Lisk Awards because he had won a sort of a legacy award. I nominated him. I'm sure others did too, because he was such a champion for the community. Like if there's such a thing as a community champion award, he would have won it probably every year. And those signs and all the push-up bars, like the group I was involved with, Dot Agency, built all that. I designed all the signs that he was kind of in and around. And so that was because of his leadership. That orange kind of funky thing that you saw him doing the push-ups on, it was because he came to the School of Architecture. We were meeting with him. I think we got connected to him through like a KU connection. And he's like, I really, talking to the church, talking to the community around the church, they really want a park bench on this Jersey Creek Trail. And I was working with the Community Health Council at the time. And we went to the funder who we had money from, the CDC. Now everybody knows the CDC, but back then, not many people knew the CDC. And they said, no, we're not going to give you a park bench. Sedentary behavior is not physical activity. And what Broderick did is he stood up and said, no, that's what the community wants. That's what they need. That's what they're asking for. So we went back to the drawing board in the School of Architecture, and Niels Gore, my colleague at Dot Agency, Professor Niels Gore, his students were the ones that came up with the shape and the design of that with Broderick. Broderick brought members from the church, members from the community to the table, and they designed a fitness trail station is what they called it. And they built one, and the CDC saw it, and they loved it, and they built 4 more, and they got them all installed. And that was Broderick's leadership. He did not accept no. He knew that as a community, we could do better, and he cared. And so a lot of my experience with Broderick was so many kind of iterative, adaptive pieces in and around that work. Now, we've done work on food access together. Pastor Brady left earlier, but for those of you that don't know, Broderick has been a huge leader at the pantry at the New Bethel Church. I was just there 2 weekends ago before their Thanksgiving food drive. I'm walking up, I just expected to hear his voice. Like I just expected to hear him directing traffic and walking around in his red jacket, that was one of the things I said in my sort of Twitter memorial for him. I said, if you knew anything about Broderick, you knew that he loved the community. He loved KU basketball, and he knew everybody, especially at Kappa. And that was kind of my experience with him. Is anytime I ran into him at a meeting, I'd see somebody new, and he'd say, you know who that is, right? He's a Kappa. or his grandfather. He's a Kappa. So that was sort of the experience I had with him. But we worked on so many projects together along the Jersey Creek Trail, and most people don't realize he got that entire thing resurfaced by working through relationships. He worked with the Parks and Rec director during the early days of the pandemic, and they found federal dollars to resurface the entire trail because he kept on him, and he kept saying, like, we need to bring the community to spaces outside where it's safe and you can be physically active. The work he led and with Alan getting the Health Equity Task Force off the ground, I'm in a current position right now where I've helped that community continue to do work, and looking for some of the words to kind of think about memorializing him at tomorrow's service. I went back and found the interview I did with him in 2015, and he was talking about the same stuff then. I mean, the same stuff we're doing now. He's been on it. He's been leading it. And so I think if there's a lesson I take from him, and he's been one of the best teachers I've ever had in Wyandotte County and in life, is that it's not one of us that's going to be the champion. It's all of us together. And it's doing things differently. It's taking risks and willing to let go of our egos so that we can be in the space together and build relationships together. And he says it in the interview I did with him 7 years ago, but letting our fences come down so that we can be in fellowship and build relationships and dialogue and get the work done. And he said that a lot in the end of the interview. He said, you will know who did the work. You will know who did the work. Doesn't matter who says they did the work. And let's just be together doing the work together, and we'll know. And I feel like his legacy, the work he did, we know. Like, that's why there's such an outpouring of love for him, is because we know that Broderick did the work. And he might not have always tried to take credit for it, but he was always there. He was always involved. He had his hand in everything. I think he said he did 40 or 50 boards at one point. So he was certainly a passionate, gracious, human being that has influenced my life. And the one thing I'll end with this. The one thing he taught me that I'll never forget is, if you ever have a conversation and you're talking about somebody, pick up the phone and just call them. That was the one thing. I'd never seen anybody else do that before. But you would have a meeting, and if Alan and I were talking about Molly and Broderick was in the room, and say, let's just call Molly. And he just had a way of connecting. And it didn't matter where you were, didn't matter what your role was. He would find a way to connect with you if he thought he needed to talk to you. So I'm really, I feel blessed by having known him, and hopefully all of us can live into some of the legacy that he's left behind.
Yeah, he always talked about you, man, like a brother. Adrian, you talk to Matt. Does that mean I need to talk to him? Yeah, man, call Matt. Call Matt. We'd be out here. We had a fireside chats in my front yard on some Fridays. He'd call. He said, hey, man, I'm coming by your house. Before I can hang the phone up, somebody's knocking at my door. I'm like, so you were outside when you called me? And so you were already what are you doing? And we would just laugh. We'd be up to like midnight. We'd sit around the fire and just laugh. But just hearing his capacity to talk to anybody about anything. I mean, we got into some conversations here in my front yard we had a young man who had moved here as one of our elders at our church, and the racism topic came up, and he was like, I don't, and we was like, let's just talk about it. And he's like, I don't, and he's Caucasian. He was like, I don't know if I want to just talk about it. Broderick, bro, let's talk about it. Let's. And man, it was this amazing, no pressure. And then after Broderick left, Mike said, no one who's African American has ever invited me into a conversation like that where I wasn't afraid. It was crazy, man. That brother had a gift, and so, I mean, everything you guys are saying, what Alan is saying, Matt, what you're saying, and so, but just know, man, Matt, you held a special place in his heart, man. And Alan, the same thing. It was like because when COVID hit, first person he told me to call was you. Call Alan. He didn't say Dr. Grant. He said call Alan. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, you got to know that. You got to know that. So, in this segment of the conversation, last but not least, I think of her as a little sister, her and Denise and everybody over there at CHC, the work that they are doing and have done. I just felt compelled for you to go last and talk about CHC and how Broderick has impacted that work that you all did, um, how it impacted you with the work that you're doing with that, and then we'll shift into the legacy component. So, for those who don't know, this is MG. Molly, go to bed. Come on, Molly.
Hello. Thank you so much. Broderick was an unofficial employee basically of CHC. You know, he had an office in our office, and I never saw that man stop moving. He was my work husband and always looking out for me and everybody in the building, you know, making sure we're taking care of ourselves. But yet, you know, wasn't always the best at taking care of himself. Always looking at other people first. And, you know, that's just what he did. We called him the unofficial mayor of KC. He knew everybody, you know, I don't know. It's great to listen to all of this because it's like he was in almost every meeting that I was in. And it's like, Broderick, what are you doing? Like, you're not like, this is something else. And it's like, he really did have his hand in everything. And I remember telling him, if you volunteer me for one more thing, we're going to have problems, because always just, you got to meet this person, you got to do this thing, you know. And you know, my regular work is health insurance focused. And when I've been doing this since the beginning of the rollout of the ACA, and Broderick was there, and he was pulling people in, figuring out how we were going to get the Northeast covered for health insurance. And I remember him having me come to his church and having me train members of his church. And you know, I feel like I have made more awesome relationships, not just, you know, work relationships, but people that I truly consider to be my dear friends, that Broderick has introduced me to in the community. And he could build those relationships like nobody else. And it's because he could see people. And, you know, and for that reason too, we used to joke about getting stuck on the couch with Broderick, because if you had a problem or if you had something going on in your life, you know, it didn't matter what was going on. We'd sit and we'd talk on the couch at CHC for however long. And I know him and Donna Young, our executive director, had late nights there together. And a lot of the times it was because he didn't want her to be there alone and he lived close by. And I mean, he also he was our food disposal. So, you know, if we had leftover food, it was Broderick's. And it's just, I mean,
Yeah. You sure right. That little package could eat, boy. Anyway, I just had to say that to get that little package could eat. That's
he
all I'm saying.
could.
There
He
you go.
could. And we'd be like, are you supposed to be eating that? And, you know, but he would. And, you know, he was my work husband. He was everybody's work husband. He had, you know, nicknames for everybody. I was Mollinator. Um, and
Okay, Molly, you might want to explain what a work husband is, because folks is like, what under heaven is a work husband? So please clarify for folks his role as the ultimate work husband. There you go.
So he was just my partner in crime, and he would look out for us, and we'd look out for him. It was a a lovely friendship to have at the office. You know, I mean, I guess my husband might be a little jealous if we talked about it, but he loved Brad, so they knew. Um, so just the closeness that you build with people that you work with. And you know, he pulled me into so many different projects because he always felt like health literacy or health equity needed to be involved in things. And we both had passion for substance use disorders in the community. And when there wasn't that in the community at one point, we had some federal organizations come in and try to start a coalition. But Broderick and I, after the coalition, we were like, these are not the right people to have at the table. There were voices there that maybe were trying to benefit and profit off of some stuff, and the community just wasn't there. So we decided to start our own group, and then got some funding because of that and have a new coalition. And he was not, I think the thing that I loved about him was that he was not afraid to voice his opinion, and push the issues that he felt were important, even if it was not the most popular opinion in the room. And he looked out for the little guy, and he could do it with grace. And I know sometimes he was hot, but he could do it in a way that people could hear him.
Yeah, I love what Kim. Hey, Kim. Hey, Mary Beth. Good to see you. And I love what Kim says. He was also the office protector. He'd never let us walk out alone. And she made the statement that Monday. She said, "Yeah, me and Broderick bumped heads a whole lot. And me and him could bump heads, but you can't bump heads with him if I'm in the road." So that's kind of like that big brother, big sister kind of thing going on. I can get with him, but you can't. You know what I mean? So that's what I hear going on with you all at CHC. And CHC does amazing work. I learned about redlining from this group of individuals and the magazine. I mean, I got to tell this story. When Broderick turned me on to it and the in-depth information that was there, I remember trying to explain it at a KLC meeting, and I got so mad. I had a what do you call it? I had a vitriol, and I almost cussed, man. Like, who does this to people, but I had to catch myself, and I did not realize the depth of the racism that was going on here in Wyandotte County historically till I read the data from CHC. And so, again, that was Broderick connecting me with Denise and Molly and that group. And then Matt and them came in. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. So just the work that they have done and are doing is amazing. And so we'll talk about eventually at the end, how does people get in contact with these various entities? Say, hey, I want to continue the work Broderick is doing. But last but not least, my friend is here. This is MB. Well, I can call her MB. I don't know if y'all can. But we've been knowing each other since Connect the Dots. That's way back when we were at JUCO. Broderick was at JUCO. Y'all already know Broderick was at JUCO. And she has an amazing organization called Young Women on the Move. And it's really been impacting a lot of young girls here. And so, Mary Beth, can you give us about 3 minutes about how you came to know Broderick and how Young Women on the Move was impacted by your relationship with him? Oh, she's got a kitty cat. There you go. Do you think? I think you're muted. You got to come off mute.
Tiger, and he just loves to get loving. And I just got home, so he's been missing rubbing his neck. So anyway, I hate to tell you, Adrian, but I've known Dr. Greiner longer than I've known you. So I met Broderick for the first time in 2015, I believe. And I was in a really difficult situation after having had the building that we were in at my organization, Young Women on the Move. The little church that we were hoping to do a lease purchase on was kind of sold out from under us. And we moved into, along with a little floundering organization at 8th and State Street organization, the old gym that Adrian has tried to take hold of for a long time. And somehow Broderick got involved in trying to help us develop a strategy and a vision for moving forward. it didn't really work, but fortunately it didn't work for many reasons. But nonetheless, I got to know Broderick and begin to be aware of what he was doing with the New Bethel Neighborhood Association and the Development Association. And I kind of hit a chord with him because he had also been at KU Medical Center, and he also loved academic medicine and had kind of an outlook on building the community that I felt in many ways is missing a lot. But he really was bringing this critical thinking and kind of a research approach to the community mobilizing. And I began to appreciate him through that. And over the years, I've just, tried to stay connected. I know even when I first connected with Matt with our produce distribution, and I was partnering with Broderick to meet the needs of all these people that needed the fresh produce and dairy, et cetera. I began to have a better appreciation for what he was doing with the development of his church and all of their outreaches. And I just admired him so much as a leader, but an humble, but a proud leader. And I just feel like Broderick was such a wise person, but he always listened, and he was always really ready to help. And so I really appreciated him through that. And I know that when the Red Line study came out, I invited him to speak to our Kiwanis Club out at Village West. And that's not the most inner city group you might meet. And he did such a really good job of explaining to people who may not have empathy for redlining. And it was new information for them, and it was hard for them to take it, but he was able to present it in a way that they could accept it. And I just think this whole redlining study over the past few years, it's hit people on so many different levels, from the government to the community organizers to people in these civic organizations who need to take a more honest appraisal of where we are and why we're here, why we're experiencing these issues. So I really, really respected Broderick. I struggled during the pandemic with staff, with volunteers, with parents who there were just so many complications of people who were not wanting to get with the program. And there was just so much animosity towards people with the various different opinions. And I reached out to Broderick, and we had long conversations about how you still include people and show grace and build a great team. But how do we communicate with them in a loving way, but still deal with the issues that we must deal with to protect our own lives as well as all of those people we serve. And I really appreciated his guidance for us as we really dealt with some complicated situations. And I guess one of the other things that I've really came to appreciate with Broderick was his affiliation with Thrive, which is one of our community partners, and with our youth violence prevention. And he took a group of kids and really helped them engage their voices on many of the issues that were facing our community. And he just pulled it out of them to help them realize they do have a voice. And that is something that I think is so sadly missing, is the power of our youth, and how he was able to get these youth to catch that vision and realize that they had the power to make change. So I think of all the things, that's probably what I'll remember about him the most.
Yeah. He came to our church when it had just kicked off, and it was really ramping up the COVID thing, and was giving us some more detailed information about um, COVID and the need here in the Northeast. And even in that meeting, there were naysayers, so no, I'm not going to do that. And it was, like you said, it was the way he presented it where there was respect in the room. There was a lot of respect in the room. And like I said, he just had a different way. It's like watching, it's like Julia said Monday, I think it was Julia, how he literally lived KLC. I mean, managing self, intervening skillfully, energizing others. He just did it. It was just a part of his DNA. And I can only say, like Bishop was saying, that he ran the race. He was fully engaged with God in such a way to where it manifested itself to where we're getting these kinds of testimonials. And so we're going to shift now because we're getting close to our time boundary. And I want you to really think about, when we think about legacy. And there are, and I can honestly say there are people that that we're really close to in this community who I had invited, and they just weren't ready to have this type of conversation yet. I get it. And so, as much as we know tomorrow's coming and Saturday's coming, the relationships that some of us have had with Broderick, it's hard to say goodbye, right? But, and here's the but, however, his legacy has the capacity to go forward. You know what I mean? Like driving past Jersey Creek, you'll never look at it the same because you'll see his markings all over it. And he's touched so many different places. But I'm going to start with Dr. Grant, and I'm going to give him about 90 seconds. And then we're going to close out with Molly because she's got mommy duty going on, so we understand. And we're going to do it like we opened. So it'll be like, okay, Dr. Griner, I'm curious. When you think of the word legacy and Broderick, what's your response to that? And then I want you to do the same thing to Mary Beth or Matt. So Dr. Griner, when I think of legacy and I think of Broderick, I think of keep it moving, fix it. There were some situations that were going on, between us and a couple other community partners. And the day he passed, I called this person and I let him know. And it was just a moment of silence. And it was just this feeling like, what would Broderick say? Broderick would say, fix it. He would just say, keep it moving. Like, you can't let this hinder the work. And so we just made it a point after that, you know what, let's squash the other stuff because it's not really that serious. And let's just keep it moving forward for these young people and these kids and these families that we claim we love. So for me, when I think of keeping it moving, that's the legacy that I think of when I think of Broderick Crawford. So I'm curious, Dr. Griner, how about you when you think of Broderick? What comes to mind when you think of legacy in this community from Broderick Crawford?
That's a great question. I mean, I've always felt like, especially when I first started working in Wyandotte years ago, that we didn't. In some ways, there was a lot of negative energy 20 some years ago. I think there's a lot more positive energy now, but I think in some ways everything he's done, everything that's being celebrated about him now, in some ways is like an extra, I think, sort of like electric input to the energy, the positive, good energy that has made a lot of really good things happen in Wyandotte County the last 10 or 15 years. And we've talked about COVID some, but I mean, I have no doubt that Broderick Crawford personally saved thousands of people's lives from that pandemic because of all the things he jumped into as soon as anybody asked him to. And that, that kind of energy, it's infected us all, right? But I think it's going over time, it may just grow even more. And that's what we need as a community. You know, Pastor Brady, when he was on earlier, talked about the poor health rankings of the county and the community. And I think, I think we'll get over the hurdle and start making a difference on that in the very near future. And it's all coming from energy. So to me, that's what it's about. And whether that's spiritual energy or whether that's something else that he's just left in all of us that that continues to grow. I don't know, but I'm excited to continue the work and do it in his name and in his honor.
Yeah, that's good. Who are you curious about their thoughts about Broderick when it comes to legacy here in Wyandotte County?
Well, I'm curious. I know Molly's got her baby, so she may not be able to talk right now, but I'd be curious to hear, what she thinks, because I think this, CHC has been a big part of that positive energy in a lot of ways too.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Molly, if you could say just a few things, if you can, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. I think that the legacy of Broderick Crawford is, I think, just to get it done and get it done with people. And doesn't matter how, it's like we're building the boat as we're driving it. And he has impacted all the work at CHC in every way. Even if he wasn't working on the project, we would talk about things with him. And it was always so important for there to be a community voice, and to do it with love, and I think that was a big piece, is to make sure that we're doing it with love, and it's people centered, and, not to be afraid to be the loudest voice in the room, especially if you're going up against a big entity or something. Because you gotta do it, and you gotta stand up for what you believe in, and stand up for the people, and bring the people with you too.
Yeah. Doing it with love. Yeah, that's the key, right? We, the respect I heard a man say that if it ain't worth dying for, it ain't worth living for.
Yeah, true.
And Broderick loved his community. We graduated in 79, and that brother was a bulldog, and he's a dot. At the end of the day, he's a dot, but he just loves people. And so I'm with that, Molly. And Molly, know that we are with y'all, because there's probably no group in Wyandotte County closer to Broderick than CHC. And so, for the whole team, we need to, how do we lift them up through this? How do we help them through this process? Because that's huge. And so just know, Molly, we're here. We're here with you. But
there's a large hole in all of our hearts and in the office, and there's nobody that can fill it. I knew from one of the first days I met that man that he was something special. So I'm just grateful to, be able to honor his memory. And I just think it's amazing that he's going to have, an award named after him, because it's a beautiful thing.
I missed the award. What is the award?
Dr. Griner, what was the award?
I was talking about something earlier, Mary Beth. We just worked out. We talked to Broderick's family about, we've got some funds at KU that are part of our translational research enterprise over there that's called Frontiers. And we've got, for the next 5 years at least, we'll have $25,000 to do mini grants, essentially. And we're going to call them the Broderick Crawford Community Engagement Awards. And we hope that over time we can build it up and make it even bigger. But definitely we want to recognize him by facilitating these kind of things that he was so great at, where it was community partnering with an institution or other academic entity to get good things done. So that's the idea.
Great.
Yeah, I just got a notice from Pastor Tony Carter. He was coming, but he can't because he's at a KBEN meeting. And he said they're honoring Broderick tonight as well. So I'm not sure who KBEN is, but that just goes to just literally confirm everything we're talking about, that there are a lot of people sensing this loss, and recognizing that there's ways of not allowing the work that he did to just go by the wayside. So thank you, Molly. Love y'all much. Big Red, what about you, man? How about you? Oh, that's Matt, y'all. In case y'all didn't know, that's Matt. I'll just say.
I put in the chat again, and you might need to repaste them, Pops, because I think the links got broken up. But
Okay.
there's 2 videos that I've watched, and his legacy comes through in both of them for me. One was we did a project in 2019 with kids, and it was an architecture project. And so he talked to the kids about redlining, but then we went out and designed something one day and built it the next, and then celebrated it with the kids the next. And so I got a chance to sit down with him and a bunch of the kids and the facilitator, and you can hear Broderick's just joy of pouring into the community, pouring into youth, come through in the clips that he's interviewed in that video. It's a little bit long, so it's not worth sharing right now. But feel free to check it out on your own. The other one is probably the last time I really spent a lot of time with him. It was just a couple months before he went into his coma. We'd spent a little bit of time working on a grant just a couple nights before he went in for surgery. And this was an interview we did with residents, and we just walked up one day to the court, saw kids playing, started talking to him about it, and he cared so much. And Broderick never met a stranger. He was always a friend. Even if you met in a couple seconds, you were friends by the end of it. And so in that little 2-minute clip, we just met these guys playing basketball on this basketball court. It's where the Jersey Creek 5K kicks off. It sounds like Pastor Brady is going to try to rename that in his honor. That's the court I'm going to be working on. Like his legacy is stuff that I'm going to be, it's going to carry with me for the rest of my life. There's a saying, I think this is how I process grief. People die twice, once when they pass this earth, and once when the people that they had impact on, forget their memory. I'm never going to forget Broderick's, memory, the impact he's had on my life. I feel like I'll be doing this work for a long, long time because of the work he inspired in me and many, many others, many of you all watching tonight. So I feel like his presence will always be with us in some way, because we'll always remember the things he did that made us feel better about ourselves. So hopefully we can continue that legacy on.
Yeah. Thanks, Kimberly, for letting us know what KBEN is. It's Kansas Birth Equity Network. So if you want to Google what that's about, you can find out more in-depth information. Thanks, Kim. Mary Beth, how about you? How would you, in about 90 seconds, close us out about Broderick's legacy?
I was just thinking about his deep involvement with KLC and wishing that we could create one of those little cards that has the core competencies on it and do the core competencies according to Broderick. And if they could be crystallized into a way that what his values were and the way that he handled things, that we don't lose it. We don't just think about him, but how he did it and how he held true to that vision. I just wish there was a way that we could put this in a bottle and share it, so that none of us forget. Because we're standing on his shoulders now, and we just need to move forward, raising up new people to take his place. But I think somehow we've got to really honor him. But I just feel like, let people know what he believed in and why and how he did it. If there's any way we could capture that.
Yeah. Here's some, I want to share this with you. And I did have a conversation with Julia Favors McBride at KLC. And so there's a consideration for an opportunity possibly where KLC is looking to help people learn how to engage in community work. And so had a conversation with a couple of people Monday. And even when I talked to Julia today, she was like, man, let's have this conversation, especially with the fact of the momentum that could be built around it, not just with his passing, but with his life. And looking at it from the perspective of carrying on with a net like Kim and Carl said Monday, there'll never be another Broderick. But what if we were able to help people get engaged just with their natural passion and just show them how to formulate it, just like Broderick formulated his. And he just, whether sometimes he was a bulldog in the china cabinet, or sometimes he was as gentle as a lion, as a lamb, but either way, he was getting the work done. And so just keep that in your thoughts and prayers that, because I know KLC is really looking for ways to engage communities. So I just want to say thank y'all, because this is helping me heal. You know what I mean? I don't have no more tears. I'm all cried out, y'all. I think Molly, I think I cried my last tear early Wednesday morning. And because I just had this sense of peace. I know where my brother is. I know he is looking at Jesus going, absolutely. Absolutely. Can we fix that? Brother, just sit down and praise Jesus. You ain't got to do nothing no more. But I told him, I said, I'm gonna see you one day, man, and we're going to. None of us here are ever gonna let anybody forget his work. I've made that one of my life missions now, that no one will ever forget the name of Broderick Crawford. And so together, we'll learn from everything he did, and then we're just gonna keep it moving, because Broderick would want us to keep it moving. So. And we're going to help each other heal, y'all. We're going to walk with each other. It's going to be some of them closet times where, we're going to need to reach out to each other and say, man, I'm just struggling today. And I hope that this group, and there's others that have been on that are watching, that, we feel free as family, whether KLC or not, we're dots. Broderick was a dot, and he brought us all together in a special way. And so I want to look in the camera and tell her, Broderick will want us to keep it moving, and that we do it with love, and that we have the compassion for each other. So I'm gonna close with prayer, and then we're gonna call it a day. So Father, we thank you for the life of Broderick Crawford. Not everyone gets the opportunity to be as blessed as we have been, to literally see the tangible, methodical work of what it means when the Holy Spirit takes on flesh and manifests itself in this way. And you did it through Broderick in such a strong way, not making him perfect in any way, but even in his imperfection, that his passion for what was right, his passion for equity, his passion to see people treated as human beings while they go through the process of being human in those moments, we will never forget. And those seeds have been deeply implanted into us. So we thank you, God, for allowing us just this small snippet of time where he crossed our path in various ways. And I lift up everyone on this screen. I lift up everyone who's watching. I lift up everyone from Monday. We lift up this city. We lift up his family, because truth be told, it's still a huge void. And we can only depend on you, that you will send us and send others to help fill it, because there'll never be another Broderick. But what we do know is that nothing is impossible with you. So we don't want this momentum to die. In fact, we want it to pick up. So whatever it takes, Lord, for us just to be constantly in remembrance of what would Broderick do, that gives us the capacity to go forward. So as we leave this place, but not your presence, I ask that you bless everyone here. Bless Denise, bless Rachel, bless the CHC staff. Help them to go through this process, not alone, but together. We're here for them. Here for Matt, here for Dr. Griner, here for Mary Beth, and we're here for each other. And we ask all these things in the only name which matters, which is your son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. All right. Love y'all. Love y'all. Probably see y'all Saturday. Hey, Damien. Hey, good to see you, brother. Thank you so much for coming in. I won't see y'all tomorrow because we got our banquet, but Lord willing, we'll see y'all Saturday. All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Love y'all. Thank y'all so much. All right. Bye-bye.